Here we are at the Ramses Temple.
Yes, Ramesseum.
Ramesseum.
Yes.
Ramses the second temple, and we're looking at some amazing stonework that happened. This statue behind us, in excess of 1,000 tons, that was quarried from where?
From Aswan, south of Luxor. It's about 200 miles here, far from Luxor.
And it stumbled over. We're not sure why. I mean, the standard story is that it was pushed over by a Persian king.
By the Persian king.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's unclear that that really happened. It's more likely than the Persian king quarried from it.
Exactly. And we're going to see the marks of quarrying, which I see it as also not successful attempts to quarry from the statue.
Right, because pushing over 1,000-ton block is not obvious at all. Let's go closer to it and take a look. This statue was placed on a pedestal as well, and we're going to take a look at the pedestal as we walk down towards it. So not only is a 1,000-ton block, how far is the quarry?
The quarry is 200 miles south of Luxor.
200 miles. Yes. So over 400 kilometers.
Around this.
Around 400 kilometers. And so
the quarry
is
at the opposite side of the Nile.
Oh yeah, and the quarry is on the other side of the Nile. So now you got a 1,000-ton block that you got to somehow get across the Nile. Just for people's reference, we were looking at cranes yesterday. Fairly large crane was 500 ton. I'm sorry, 5-ton block could be lifted with a modern, a typical modern crane you see building buildings. And that's at the foot, right, Steve? You went and looked at the specs on the crane that was at Karnak?
Yeah, that was a Libera tower crane, and that size, I look at the chart, and it's 5,000 kilo right beside the tower.
Right.
But if you go at the far end, which was, I believe it was 50 meters.
50 meters?
It was only 900 kilo.
900
capacity.
Kilo lift capacity. So now you've only moved you only moved like a few meters out, right? How many meters?
I believe it was 50.
50 meters out, and you're already not even able to pick up 500 kilos.
Yes, the 5 tons will not manage to.
No.
So about 900 kilo.
So moving a 1,000-ton block would require a crane of extraordinary size.
Well, it's like
super giant.
Super giant, and it wouldn't be able to move the 1,000-ton block away from its base very far, and then you'd have to move the whole crane again, right? And these kind of cranes that lift 1,000-ton blocks usually are on rails, and so you'd have to lay rails, and they don't go very far, and certainly they don't go over rivers, so. 200 miles away is insane, but then we're going to see it was 200 miles away, then brought here, and then somehow lifted onto a pedestal that's at least 3 meters high, or 2.5 meters high.
If we cannot actually, we don't need to go to the step of the river.
Right.
After 2 days, we're going to visit the granite quarry, and you will see moving this out of the quarry itself
alone
is a great challenge for our modern tools.
Yeah, because you can't get a 1,000-ton block out of the surface of the quarry, because
be
from deep inside,
exactly.
because you're trying to get a block that doesn't have any cracks in it.
And
so
people will see that the edges of where they cut the stone, you can hardly stand and without feeling balance. Okay, like if we have a group of 10 people, there is no room for a group of 10 people.
Right. So
so even the idea of crane is impossible. Also there.
Right. Because there's very little space to start
sharp
putting
edges all the way.
Right, all the way around. So and not only that, so here we're looking at the shoulder and the head, right?
Yes.
So this here is only the shoulder,
Yes.
right, of this incredible piece of artwork, rose granite, and it's perfectly smooth, right? It's perfectly smooth, so you don't see striation, you don't see tool marks, you don't see any of it.
And not only smooth, but it matches the muscles of the shoulder.
The shoulder, so it's anatomically very, very accurate. Like most of these very ancient statues from, like the ones that we actually believe are pre-cataclysmic.
It was made by superior tools.
Superior tool than dynastic
And
Egypt.
this is the clear evidence that with the regular style they claim they cut the statue, it couldn't cut part of the head. So there was an attempt, we are not very sure when, but some people were trying just to cut like a slice from the stone. Just a slice. But after too much work and no good result, they left.
Oh, I see. From copper.
Yes.
So
From iron tools.
Iron tools.
Yes.
Right, so it's later.
Later.
Yeah,
Yes.
like in late dynastic.
And it could be, yes, maybe
or even modern
second
time.
century AD or like this.
Yeah,
So-
okay. And so then they try to remove part of it, quarry it,
Yes,
basically, and it failed.
exactly.
Right. Because quarrying something like this is so, and so the density of this stuff is really high,
Yes.
right? It's got a lot of quartz in it.
You know, I tried this myself. I had once the chisel, iron chisel, very sharp with the hammer. You know, it hurts your hand. When you hit the hammer on granite, it vibrates in your hand, it shakes.
Yeah, yeah.
If you do this 10 times, then your nerves
You
here
start
and the muscles,
hurting.
you feel pain in your arm.
Right.
That's why those people who were doing this suffered
And-
too much to reach that level.
Right, and give up on it. Right. So you can see this incredible. And so, Mohammed, do you think that these cartouches are original or they were added?
No, we're at.
They were added.
Yes, exactly.
So basically, dynastic Egypt found this already standing, and it's, you know, and they the kings carved their names on it
Exactly.
to claim it, which is something they did all the time, right?
And we saw many cases, like the statue of Memphis, also Ramses II put his name, and we can see that the names are not even put in a proper way, like the manufacture of the statue itself.
Right. That's right, yeah. So let's take a look at the pedestal now. Let's take a look at how, not only what they did, but like how in order to make the statue,
And that is something I feel sad about, that they always talk about the statue and they don't mention the pedestal.
yeah, they don't mention the pedestal, which is almost like a feat, just as incredible as the statue. Let's take a look at the statue here, so you can see that's the other shoulder on the other arm, you know, and the head again. And then if you look past it, right, you can see that this was on this pedestal here, which is an immense granite block. Let's go and take a look at it.
This is also part of the evidence that they were trying to cut part of the leg, but they couldn't.
Oh, right. And there was another statue on the other side, you believe, that was the same.
It's a must.
Right.
They always do symmetrical.
Symmetrical things. So the pedestal here. So this other thing over there, that was something else, right?
This is part of the throne.
Of the throne. Okay, the throne. Okay. But this statue was on the pedestal.
Yes. That statue was sitting on the throne,
On the throne.
yes, and the pedestal under the feet.
And the pedestal.
So the feet in the right place now, above the pedestal.
Okay, so then you got a granite one piece, right? It's we calculate about 10 meters.
We can see.
Right. So let's take a look. That's the end of it there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's okay.
9 meters. 9 meters. And it's what? Like maybe...
Oh no, it's okay.
It's about 2 meters
2 meters.
and maybe 30 centimeters.
So 2.5 meters?
2.5 meters, yes.
2.5 meters high.
2.5 meters.
Yeah. And let's take a look how wide it is. So 2.5 meters wide, high.
Yes.
And let's take a look how... There we go.
4.5.
4.5.
Half the, yes, so it's this perfect rectangular shape.
Rectangular shape.
9, 4.5.
4.5. I would say it's more than, okay, is this the bottom of the stone? This is a renovation on this side.
Yes, but this is the real bottom because here we can see the limestone blocks under. Okay.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Oh yeah?
There we go.
No, actually it's more than 5.
Right.
Yes, so it's about,
You have long legs.
so it's 5.5.
5.5 meters. Okay, let's try to get an accurate size on the side. 5.5 meters. So that's 5.5 there.
5.
That's 5. Okay. There we go.
10.
10. So 5.5 by 10. And let's measure the height over here. I need somebody with a calculator.
I'm doing it.
You're doing it? Okay, Steve here is our, come Steve, is a miner,
We're mining contractor.
2.5.
mining
as we said.
contractor,
2.5.
2.5.
Yes.
So let's get the cubic
So it's
Meter.
137.5 cubic meter.
137.5 cubic meter.
Yeah, and granite is between 2.78 and 2.85
So
ton per cubic meter.
Ton per cubic meter. So let's call it 2.8 ton per cubic meter.
So it's 385.
385 ton block.
Yeah. Almost 400.
Almost 400 ton block that this statue sat on. So this block alone, and this is pink granite from the same quarry?
Rose granite from Aswan.
From Aswan. So again, now you got a massive block moved from Aswan, and now you have to bring this 1,000-ton block 2.5 meter up
Yes.
to go and sit it on there, which is ridiculous.
And it must be aligned perfectly.
And then it's a lot, yeah. It's not like you can put it up there and then just kind of like,
Push or
you know, go like this and say, hey, push it over a little bit, right? You got to nail where it's going to fall on top.
First time, yes,
First
it must
time.
be accurate.
It must be accurate and must be level, right?
Oh,
Because like any variation on something that big, it would look crooked
exactly.
very quickly. And it's and from all the other statues, you can see they were nailing perfection.
Oh,
And
same
so-
like the obelisk style also.
Right. So to think that all this was done with slaves pulling on vine ropes, I think the local tradition here is I don't think so. It just,
Yes, true.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's why some of the locals here they don't of course believe that kind of hard work. So they claim that it was done by magic.
By magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I call it science.
Right.
So yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so even the locals don't believe this.
Yeah.
So they believe if this was done, it must be done by magic.
Right. And you know, and certainly it supports the concept that there was a very advanced civilization,
Of course.
pre-cataclysmic, in this region that put many of these monuments together, and then dynastic Egypt eventually developed, and then they
did that work.
They did other work,
Exactly,
limestone work, and embellished around what was already there.
Exactly. And one of the opinions, we believe that many of the ancient temples were originally made totally from granite and then destroyed, so they managed to rebuild according to the old plan, but from limestone.
From limestone, which
like
is
we saw
easier.
yesterday at Karnak Temple, hundreds of thousands of broken pieces of granite. That is the older structure. And the limestone, this is the dynastic structure.
Right.
On the same scale maybe,
Right.
or the same shape of the older
Right.
structure.
Which
But they
you-
couldn't do the same material.
Which you see as well later on in more modern era, where you know the Catholic Church would come along, or the Islamic tradition.
First
and,
the Greeks use it, and then the Romans use it, and
Yeah.
then the Coptics, and then the Muslims.
yeah, and they built their church, they built their
Inside the
temple
place.
inside the place to capture the energy of what
course.
was there before. Yeah. So I don't think so. It's a whole other story, folks, and we're uncovering it out here. Stay in touch. May the vacuum be with you.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Say hi, everybody. First annual Resonance Academy delegate gathering.